Dr. Elena Chen's hands trembled as she adjusted the observatory's main telescope. The midnight sky above Tokyo had erupted with light moments earlier, casting eerie shadows across the city's skyline. What had begun as a routine night shift monitoring, deep space signals had transformed into humanity's most significant moment. "Are you recording this?" she called to her assistant, who stood frozen by the monitoring equipment. "Yes, doctor. All frequencies, all spectrums." His voice quavered with a mix of awe and terror. The enormous crystalline ships, 7 of them arranged in perfect geometric formation, descended through the atmosphere without a sound. No sonic boom, no disturbance of air currents. They simply appeared, defying physics as humanity understood it. 3 hours earlier, Elena had decoded their mysterious transmission. A single word that sent government officials scrambling to emergency bunkers: prepare. Now, as the ships positioned themselves strategically above major population centers, Elena understood why. This wasn't first contact. This was first conquest. Her secure phone buzzed with an incoming call from General Wade. "Tell me you have something, Doctor," the general said, his usually commanding voice now strained. "The Security Council is assembling, and we need information." The ships are approximately 2 kilometers in length each. They're generating some kind of gravimetric field that's keeping our satellites from getting clear readings, Elena explained, scrolling through incoming data. "No heat signatures, no radiation we can detect. It's like they're not even there, except..." "Except what?" "They're beautiful," she whispered, pressing her eye back to the viewfinder. The vessels shimmered with an internal light that pulsed like a heartbeat, their surfaces reflecting starlight in hypnotic patterns. The global summit was hastily arranged within 12 hours. Elena found herself in the United Nations chamber, in New York, surrounded by world leaders who had arrived via emergency protocols. The atmosphere was tense, filled with whispered conversations and nervous glances toward the ceiling, as if the visitors might burst through at any moment. They didn't need to burst through. At exactly noon, the air in the center of the chamber shimmered and distorted. 3 figures materialized from nothing, causing security personnel to raise weapons despite explicit orders not to provoke. Elena studied the beings with professional detachment that barely masked her fascination. The Vraks, as they would soon identify themselves, stood nearly 7 feet tall with sleek, iridescent skin that shifted colors with their movements. Their eyes reflected starlight even indoors, suggesting internal light sources rather than reflected ones. Most striking was their stillness. They moved only when necessary, with perfect economy of motion. The central figure stepped forward. Later, Elena would know him as Commander Zeth, but in this moment he was simply the harbinger of humanity's potential extinction. "Your world has been selected," he said in flawless English, his voice resonating with harmonics that made several people cover their ears. "We require your resources. We require your service." No interpreter had been provided. Somehow everyone in the chamber heard the message in their native language. To demonstrate their power, Commander Zeth raised a slender hand. On the massive display screens around the chamber, live footage showed the Taipei 101 skyscraper, one of Earth's tallest structures, rising slowly into the air, surrounded by the same shimmering field that encased their ships. People poured from the building's exits, screaming. After hovering for 30 terrifying seconds, the building settled back into its foundation without a single crack. "Resistance would be inefficient," Commander Zeth continued. "You have 7 rotations of your planet to formalize surrender terms. We are reasonable. Your species may continue under our guidance." As the chamber erupted in shocked outbursts, Elena noticed something curious. A young child, someone's daughter brought along in the emergency, began crying in fear. The nearest Vraks visibly flinched, turning away as if in pain. No one else seemed to notice this reaction, but Elena filed it away. In the face of overwhelming technological superiority, even the smallest weakness might matter. 7 days to surrender. 7 days before Earth became just another resource colony in whatever vast empire these beings represented. 7 days to find a solution where none seemed possible. Elena's phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. "Dr. Chen, We need your expertise. Colonel Harrington, Defense Coalition. Come immediately. As the Vracs disappeared as suddenly as they had arrived, Elena slipped away from the chamber. Whatever slim hope humanity had might start with understanding these beings. And something told her that the child's tears and the Vrax's reaction were connected in ways no one yet understood. Colonel James Harrington stood in the underground war room, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of Earth's defensive positions. 6 days remained before the Vrax deadline. Humanity's most advanced weapon systems had proven useless against the alien vessels. Missiles evaporated before impact. Fighter jets lost control when approaching within 2 kilometers. Even orbital platforms had been neutralized without apparent effort. "This is suicide," General Rivera said, staring at the mission blueprint. "You're proposing to board an alien vessel with untested technology." Harrington traced his finger along the projected flight path. "The phase shift prototype is our only option. Their shields operate on a frequency we can identify, if not replicate. These suits should allow a small team to pass through undetected." "Should," Rivera emphasized, but signed the authorization anyway. What choice did they have? 4 hours later, Harrington led 6 soldiers through the night sky above the Pacific Ocean, each wearing experimental phase shift suits that hummed with energy. Their target, a smaller Vrax scout ship hovering 20 kilometers off the California coastline. "Remember," Harrington whispered into his comm, "we need intel and, if possible, a prisoner. No unnecessary risks." They approached the crystalline vessel from below, its surface shimmering with internal light. As they neared the hull, Harrington felt a peculiar sensation, like swimming through syrup. But the phase shift technology held. The material of the ship yielded like a membrane, allowing them passage. Inside, the corridors pulsed with living technology. Surfaces responded to movement, illuminating their path with soft blue light. The air smelled of ozone and something alien, like cinnamon mixed with copper. "The ship is aware of us," Lieutenant Santos whispered, pointing to filaments that retracted from her proximity. "But it doesn't seem alarmed." They advanced deeper, following energy readings toward what they hoped was the command center. The lack of resistance troubled Harrington. Had their infiltration truly gone undetected, or were they being permitted to enter? His question was answered when they rounded a corner and faced 3 Vrax. The aliens stood perfectly still, their iridescent skin shifting colors rapidly, their equivalent of alarm. One raised a crystalline device. "Down!" Harrington shouted as energy crackled through the corridor. The firefight was brief but intense. 2 of Harrington's team went down immediately. The Vrax moved with uncanny coordination, as if each knew exactly what the others would do. Yet Harrington noticed something odd. Whenever Santos fired her weapon, the Vrax seemed momentarily disoriented. During a pause in fire, Harrington glanced at Santos. She clutched a wedding ring on a chain around her neck, a nervous habit he'd noticed during the mission prep. Something about that gesture. "Santos, your ring. Hold it out," he commanded. Bewildered, she complied, gripping the gold band tightly while advancing. The nearest Vrax visibly recoiled, its movements becoming erratic. Taking advantage of the confusion, Harrington's team pressed forward. They secured the command center and captured a wounded Vrax scientist later identified as Kayla. Back at headquarters, Dr. Chen conducted the first interrogation of their Vrax prisoner. Through a combination of gestures, mathematical sequences, and eventually rudimentary verbal communication, she made a startling discovery. They communicate telepathically, she reported to Harrington afterward. Not just with each other, but with their technology. The ships themselves are partly organic, responding to their neural commands. That explains their perfect coordination, Harrington mused, but not why we succeeded where other missions failed. Dr. Chen held up Santos's wedding ring. "This contains powerful emotional resonance for Lieutenant Santos. It belonged to her wife, who died last year. My theory is that strong human emotions create interference in their telepathic network." Harrington considered this. Santos was thinking about her wife during the mission. "She always does in combat," she told me once. "Exactly." Dr. Chen's eyes shone with excitement. And the VRAC scientist confirmed something remarkable. They call us mind noise makers. Our emotional states are chaotic to them, unpredictable. They've evolved beyond emotions, seeing them as primitive inefficiencies. Harrington looked at the holographic display where red dots indicated the VRAC's mining operations already beginning around the globe. So they have a weakness after all? Not just a weakness, Dr. Chen replied. A fundamental blind spot, and we have 5 days to exploit it. Dr. Aisha Okafor hadn't slept in 36 hours. The neurobiological research facility beneath Denver had been converted into a high-security alien study center overnight. 4 days remained before the VRAC's deadline, and she felt every second ticking away as she adjusted the neural interface connected to their captured alien. Kayla, baseline readings are stable, she told her assistant, Dr. Patel, though their neural architecture is fundamentally different from ours. Multiple connection nodes instead of our bilateral structure. Kayla sat motionless in the containment chamber, iridescent skin pulsing with subtle patterns. The VRACs hadn't resisted the tests, displaying a scientific curiosity that matched their own. As Okafor recorded another set of readings, raised voices erupted from the adjacent lab. 2 researchers were engaged in a heated argument about resource allocation. This is ridiculous. We have 4 days to save our planet, and you're hoarding equipment for your peripheral experiments? The first scientist slammed his hand on a table. Peripheral? My work could be the key to understanding their communication systems, the second shouted back. Okafor was about to intervene when the monitoring equipment began emitting urgent alerts. On the other side of the glass, Kala had begun trembling, the skin patterns accelerating into chaotic swirls. What's happening? Dr. Patel asked, checking the alien's vital signs. Okafor stared at the neural readouts, then at the arguing scientists, making a connection. It's them, their argument. Look at these wave patterns. The VRAC's neural activity showed significant disruption, spiking in ways that corresponded with the emotional intensity of the human conflict. Stop the argument, Okafor ordered a security officer who quickly separated the scientists. As they calmed down, Kayla's readings gradually stabilized. This confirms what Colonel Harrington reported, Okafor said, reviewing the data. Emotional states create disruption in their neural patterns, but I need to understand the mechanism. Over the next 18 hours, Okafor conducted a series of controlled experiments. Volunteers were asked to experience various emotional states while in proximity to VRAC's technology recovered from the scout ship. The results were consistent, but puzzling. Mild emotions produced minimal effects. Intellectual exercises, even complex calculations, generated no disruption at all. But when a concert pianist played a sonata he had composed for his wife who died in childbirth, the alien equipment in the testing chamber catastrophically malfunctioned, circuits overloading in a cascade of failures. It's not just any emotion, Okafor explained to Dr. Chen and Colonel Harrington during their urgent briefing. It's emotional depth and authenticity. The more profound and genuine the emotional experience, the greater the disruption to VRACs. Neural patterns and technology. She displayed brain scans side by side. Their neural architecture evolved for perfect logical telepathy, mathematical precision, instantaneous communication across vast distances. But they engineered emotional centers out of their brains centuries ago, considering them evolutionary weaknesses. They made themselves vulnerable to something they no longer understand, Chen concluded. Kayla had been permitted to observe the briefing through a neural interface. The alien's translated response appeared on a screen. Emotional interference was eliminated from our species 12 generations ago. It created inefficiencies, unpredictability. But you can't predict what you don't comprehend, Harrington noted, and you don't comprehend human emotion. A practical demonstration came unexpectedly. During a VRAC's attack on the facility's outer perimeter, Dr. Patel's assistant found herself cornered by a VRAC soldier. In desperation, she clutched a photo of her twin daughters from her wallet and focused on her fierce love for them. The VRAC stumbled backward as if struck, its weapons system deactivating. When the security footage was analyzed, Okafor could barely contain her excitement. "We don't just have a scientific curiosity," she told the emergency response team. "We have a weapon. The one thing they eliminated from their evolution is the very thing that might save humanity, our emotional depth. Now we just need to figure out how to weaponize feelings," Harrington said, only half joking. Dr. Chen looked thoughtful. "Not weaponize, amplify." The underground war room beneath the Rocky Mountains buzzed with tense energy. 3 days remained before the VRAC's deadline. World leaders and military commanders gathered around the circular table, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing the advancing VRAC's harvest operations across 6 continents. Dr. Elena Chen stood at the center, her normally composed demeanor charged with urgency. "What we're proposing is called Project Emotional Cascade," she explained, nodding to Dr. Okafor, who activated a simulation. The hologram displayed a simplified model of Earth with pulsing blue dots representing broadcast centers. Waves of energy emanated outward, eventually enveloping the red triangles representing VRAC ships. "Based on our research with Kayla and the recovered technology, we believe a coordinated global broadcast of amplified human emotional states could disrupt their entire command network," Chen continued. "Not just their communications, but the neural link between the VRACs and their technology." The Secretary General frowned. "You want to fight an advanced alien species with feelings?" Colonel Harrington stepped forward. "With respect, we've attempted conventional warfare. It failed. Our most advanced weapons barely register on their defensive systems." He activated his tablet, projecting footage from their recent experiments. "This is what happened when we tested Dr. Okafor's prototype." The video showed a lieutenant wearing what looked like a modified helmet. As she closed her eyes, concentrating deeply, nearby screens began to glitch. A piece of recovered VRAC's technology in a containment field sparked and went dark. Lieutenant Cooper was recalling the birth of her daughter, Harrington explained. The emotional resonance amplified through the device completely disabled the alien tech from a distance of 15 meters. Skeptical murmurs filled the room. The Russian president leaned forward. "And you believe this can be scaled to affect their entire fleet?" Dr. Okafor took over. "The VRACs operate on a neural network that spans their entire presence on and around Earth. Disrupt enough nodes simultaneously, and the cascade effect should compromise their whole system." "Should," the Chinese premier noted skeptically, as if, in response to the doubts, emergency alerts flashed across the screens. Commander Zeth had launched a devastating attack on Rio de Janeiro, vaporizing several city blocks as a demonstration of impatience. Stunned silence fell over the room as casualty estimates scrolled across the displays. "They're getting nervous," Harrington said quietly. "They've detected our research facility. They know we're onto something." The Secretary General's face hardened. "How many people would need to participate in this emotional broadcast to create the necessary effect?" "Billions," Dr. Chen answered without hesitation. "The more participants, the stronger the cascade. We need every human being capable of experiencing and projecting authentic emotional states." "That's your condition? Authentic emotion?" The German Chancellor laughed bitterly. "How do you propose to orchestrate genuine emotional responses from billions of people on command?" Dr. Chen straightened her shoulders. "By reminding them what we're fighting for." She stepped to the communications array, and after receiving a reluctant nod from the Secretary General, began broadcasting on all global emergency channels. Her impassioned plea for unity and courage flowed not from a script, but from the heart, describing humanity's resilience, our capacity for love, our unwillingness to surrender what makes us human. Halfway through her speech, technicians noticed something extraordinary. VRAC surveillance drones monitoring major population centers began dropping from the sky, their systems failing as human emotions surged in response to Chen's words. "It's working," Harrington whispered, watching the monitors, "even without amplifiers." The world leaders exchanged glances, hope kindling for the first time since the invasion began. "You have authorization," the Secretary General said. "But 3 days is not much time to coordinate the largest synchronized human activity in history." Dr. Chen nodded gravely. "Then we'd better get started." Nairobi's National Stadium, originally built for sporting glory, now served as one of hundreds of emotional broadcast centers established worldwide. 2 days remained before the VRAC's deadline. Dr. Chen watched from the sidelines as families shared stories of ancestral courage, their voices amplified through neural interfaces designed by Dr. Okafor's team. The emotional signatures are strong but inconsistent, reported a technician monitoring the neural patterns. We're achieving approximately 70% of the targeted resonance. Dr. Chen nodded, concerned but not discouraged. Similar reports came in from broadcast centers across the globe. The technology worked, but coordinating authentic emotional responses from billions required more than engineering. It required inspiration. In Seoul, a symphony orchestra played compositions specifically designed to evoke emotional cascades. In Mumbai, Bollywood actors performed scenes of profound sacrifice and love. In London, poets read works that had moved audiences for centuries. Each broadcast center focused on culturally resonant emotional triggers, while technicians calibrated the amplification systems to maximize transmission efficiency. The VRACs, as expected, had detected the unusual energy patterns. Their response was swift and devastating. Precision strikes targeted broadcast centers in Sydney, Cairo, and Mexico City, killing hundreds and destroying critical infrastructure. Colonel Harrington coordinated the defensive response from a mobile command center, constantly changing locations to avoid detection. "We need to recover the cultural artifacts from the Louvre," he told his strike team. According to Chen's research, items of significant emotional and historical value can serve as focal points for the broadcast. The mission into VRACs-controlled Paris was harrowing. Lieutenant Cooper led a squad through subterranean passages while VRACs harvesting machines extracted minerals from the earth above, causing periodic cave-ins. They reached the museum's secret underground storage, only to find a VRACs research team, cataloging human art with clinical detachment. The ensuing firefight was brief but costly. Cooper's team secured Renaissance masterpieces and ancient sculptures, escaping through the catacombs with VRAC's pursuit craft close behind. When a dead end threatened to trap them, Cooper instructed her team to focus intensely on what they were fighting for: family, love, home. The pursuing VRAC suddenly veered off course, their craft crashing into tunnel walls as if their navigation systems had failed. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen continued her work with Kayla, developing a deeper understanding of VRAC psychology. The alien had begun displaying unprecedented behaviors, watching humans with what appeared to be curiosity, an emotion supposedly engineered out of their species. "Your species became conquerors after emotional suppression," Chen noted during one session. Was that an anticipated outcome? Kayla's response appeared on the translation screen. Efficiency increased. Reproduction decreased. Connection lost. The alien paused, searching for concepts beyond its experience. Home became meaningless. Only expansion remained purposeful. Chen recognized the profound implication. The VRACs hadn't just lost emotional capacity. They'd lost the ability to form meaningful connections to places and each other. Their conquest wasn't just about resources. It was an unconscious search for what they'd engineered away. This insight helped refine the broadcast strategy. Dr. Okafor adjusted the amplifiers to emphasize emotions the VRACs would find most disruptive, not just fear or anger, which they still partially understood, but profound connection, empathy, and love of home. In the facility's emergency shelter, where staff families had been relocated for safety, Chen observed Kayla watching children play. The alien's skin patterns shifted into configurations never before recorded, its neural readings showing activity in dormant brain regions. "I believe they're experiencing emotional reawakening," Chen told Harrington during their secure briefing. "Exposure to human emotional states is activating suppressed neural pathways." Harrington nodded grimly. "Then we better hope our broadcast works, because Commander Zeth just issued a new ultimatum. We have 36 hours, not 48. They're getting desperate." "So are we," Chen admitted. "But we have something they don't remember how to feel: hope. Security Chief Diana Ward stared at the encrypted data packets flowing across her monitor in the Singapore broadcast hub. 16 hours remained before the Varax deadline, and something wasn't right. The communication patterns showed irregular, burst being transmitted from inside the facility. Run another trace, she ordered her deputy, and lock down all external communications except through approved channels. The trace results confirmed her worst fears. Someone inside the Global Response Network was sending information directly to a Varax communication node. A betrayal from within, at humanity's most desperate hour. Diana moved swiftly through the facility, her security team securing each section. When they reached the Eastern Engineering Wing, she found Marcus Reed, son of tech billionaire Vincent Reed, hurriedly wiping data from his terminal. Security override authorization Ward Delta 7, she commanded, freezing his system. Marcus Reed, you're transmitting to the Varax. Explain yourself. The young man's face showed not guilt, but righteous conviction. You don't understand. My father has negotiated terms, favorable terms. Terms? Diana felt sick. For what? Survival, came a voice from behind her. Vincent Reed stood in the doorway, flanked by 2 members of his private security force. His normally impeccable appearance showed signs of strain, bloodshot eyes and a dazed stubble on his normally clean-shaven face. The Varax will annihilate us, Reed continued, his voice eerily calm. Total elimination isn't in their interest. They need some of us for resource management and cultural knowledge. My agreement ensures that a percentage of humanity survives, under protected status. What percentage? Diana demanded. Enough. Reed wouldn't meet her eyes. The important people. The essential ones. The ones who can rebuild afterward. Marcus looked increasingly uncomfortable. Father, you said at least 30% would be granted protective status. Vincent's expression hardened. Compromises were necessary in the final negotiation. The number is closer to 5% now. The color drained from Marcus's face. 5? But that means, it means making hard choices for survival, Vincent snapped. Something a child wouldn't understand. Diana saw her opportunity in the growing conflict between father and son. And who decides which 5%, Reed? You? Your corporate board? The Varax? The facility's emergency alert system suddenly blared. Outside, the night sky lit up with Varax energy weapons targeting broadcast centers across Southeast Asia. The betrayal had triggered Commander Zeth's assault ahead of the deadline. They promised to wait, Marcus shouted at his father. You said. They agreed to terms. Vincent's expression revealed the truth. He'd been played by the Varax, manipulated into revealing the resistance plan while getting nothing in return. A technician burst into the room. Sir, we're live. The emergency system activated the broadcast. Feed when the attack began. To everyone's shock, the facility's main screen showed Vincent and Marcus Reed's confrontation being transmitted worldwide. Their family drama, the betrayal, the revelation of the 5% survival rate, the son's horror at his father's cold calculation, was broadcasting to billions. Diana watched in amazement as readings from Varax ships showed immediate disruption. The raw, authentic emotional conflict between father and son, love, betrayal, disillusionment, radiated through the amplifiers with unexpected intensity. Keep the cameras on them, she ordered quietly, and boost the signal. Marcus confronted, his father with tears streaming down his face. How could you? Mom would be ashamed. The woman who taught us both that humanity's worth isn't measured by status or wealth. Vincent flinched as if struck. Something cracked in his carefully constructed facade. Your mother wouldn't have survived the selection criteria, he admitted, his voice breaking. I was trying to add her profile to the preservation list when the Varax refused further modifications. The emotional authenticity of the moment, a father's twisted love revealed as grief and fear, radiated through the broadcast. System. Across Southeast Asia, Varax ships began listing in the sky, their precise formations faltering as the emotional surge overwhelmed their systems. Commander Zeth, observing from his flagship, recognized the threat and issued new orders. The surviving Varax forces would target all broadcast centers simultaneously. eliminating the threat before the planned global emotional cascade could begin. The Situation Room beneath the Rocky Mountains erupted in chaos as reports of destroyed broadcast centers flooded in. Half of the facilities worldwide had been reduced to rubble by precise Vrax strikes. Colonel Harrington stared at the diminishing, blue dots on the global map, each representing thousands of lives lost. "We've lost Jakarta, Santiago, and Toronto," a communications officer reported, voice strained. "Moscow is under heavy attack but still broadcasting. New Delhi went dark 2 minutes ago." Dr. Okafor pushed through the crowd of military personnel and government officials, her lab coat stained with coffee and what looked like blood. "We need to implement the backup plan," she announced. "Right now." Harrington gave her a grim nod. "Do it." Dr. Okafor commandeered the main communication array. "This is Dr. Aisha Okafor. Authorization code Epsilon 937. She took a deep breath. "Initiate protocol Ripple." Across the globe, civilian cellular networks began receiving emergency override signals. Every functioning digital device, from smartphones to smart TVs, from hospital equipment to gaming consoles, displayed the same message. "Connect now." For Earth, instructions follow. The digital emotional cascade would use the global internet infrastructure instead of the purpose-built broadcast centers. Less powerful, but vastly more numerous, with billions of potential connection points. New Zealand goes live in 60 seconds, announced the operations director. Then Australia, then Southeast Asia. The cascade will follow the sun. On screens worldwide, the hastily produced film began playing. A montage of human history, struggle, triumph, and connection. Parents holding newborns, athletes overcoming impossible odds, strangers helping each other during disasters, ancient cave paintings alongside space exploration. The full spectrum of human experience condensed into powerful emotional triggers. In Auckland, thousands gathered in parks wearing neural amplifiers connected to modified cell towers. As they watched the footage, their emotional responses, authentic, powerful, unconstrained, began transmitting through the global network. Dr. Chen monitored the effect from the command center. First wave confirmed. Emotional resonance at 85% capacity. As each time zone activated, the emotional wave grew stronger. Individual emotions merged into a collective human consciousness that radiated outward with increasing intensity. In orbit, Vrax ships began experiencing cascading failures as their telepathic network overloaded with unfamiliar emotional input. Colonel Harrington watched the tactical display as Vrax vessels broke formation. Some drifted aimlessly. Others executed erratic maneuvers, colliding with each other. The smaller scout ships began falling from the sky, their control systems completely overwhelmed. "It's working," he whispered, almost afraid to believe it. Dr. Chen pointed to anomalous readings from the Vrax flagship. "Something's happening with Commander Zeth's vessel. The pattern is different." Unlike the other ships showing system failures, the flagship maintained course but broke orbital alignment, accelerating toward Earth's atmosphere. Its trajectory indicated a deliberate, controlled descent, despite the emotional interference. "They're targeting the broadcast source," Dr. Chen realized with horror. "Zeth is bringing the fight directly to us." Orbital monitoring systems confirmed her assessment. The massive Vrax flagship, trailing fire as it entered the atmosphere, was heading straight for the North American continent, specifically for the Rocky Mountain Command Center. More concerning was the energy buildup detected within the vessel. The Vrax were preparing to deploy a gravitational weapon capable of tearing apart the planet's crust. "We can't stop that ship with conventional weapons," Harrington stated, his voice steady despite the implications. "And the emotional broadcast isn't disabling it quickly enough." Dr. Chen's expression shifted from fear to determination. "Then, we bring the broadcast to them, directly." "You can't be serious," Harrington objected. "We have one partially repaired Vrax scout ship," she countered. "We can reach their flagship before they deploy the weapon." Dr. Okafor joined them, already calculating adjustments to the amplifiers. "If we connect directly to their neural interface, the emotional input would be unfiltered, overwhelming." Harrington looked between the two scientists, then at the approaching Vrax flagship on the monitor. "I'll pilot the ship myself," he decided. "Who's coming with me?" The captured Vrax scout ship shuddered as Colonel Harrington guided it through Earth's upper atmosphere, trailing fire against the dawn sky. Dr. Chen and Dr. Okafor worked feverishly to stabilize the emotional amplifiers they had retrofitted into the alien vessel's neural interface. "Distance to target, 12 kilometers in closing," Harrington announced, his hands dancing across the crystalline control surfaces. Their defense systems are still partially operational, through the view screen. They watched the massive Vrax flagship descending toward the Rocky Mountains. Its surface rippled with energy distortions, signs that the emotional cascade was having some effect, but not enough to prevent the attack. "The gravitational weapon is powering up," Dr. Okafor reported, monitoring energy readings. "We have less than 4 minutes before they can deploy." Harrington pushed the scout ship to its limits, dodging erratic defensive fire from the flagship. "I can get us into their secondary docking bay, but it won't be gentle." The landing was anything but gentle. The scout ship crashed through weakened defensive barriers, skidding across the living floor of the Vrax docking bay in a shower of sparks and crystalline fragments. Emergency systems engaged automatically, sealing hull breaches with a gelatinous substance. "Everyone still alive?" Harrington asked, unstrapping from the pilot's seat. Dr. Chen nodded, grabbing the portable emotional amplifier. "We need to reach their command center. Kayla's information suggests it's 3 levels up from here." They fought their way through the flagship's corridors, encountering disoriented Vrax crew members. Some fled at their approach. Others stood paralyzed, overwhelmed by unfamiliar emotional input leaking through their telepathic network. The ship itself seemed to react to their presence, corridors constricting and barriers forming, then dissolving as the emotional broadcast interfered with its biological components. They reached the command center with barely a minute remaining. Commander Zeth stood at the center of the chamber, surrounded by a protective field that seemed to shield him from the worst of the emotional interference. His skin pulsed with complex patterns of distress and determination as he completed final preparations for the gravitational weapon. "Stop!" Dr. Chen called out, stepping forward. "This doesn't have to end with destruction." Commander Zeth turned, his starlight eyes focusing on the human intruders. "You cannot prevent this," he stated, his harmonic voice distorted with unusual frequencies. "Your emotional attack is primitive." "I have adapted." Harrington raised his weapon, but Dr. Chen placed a restraining hand on his arm. Instead of attacking, she approached the command interface, connecting their emotional amplifier directly to the ship's neural network. "We're not here to destroy you," she said, meeting Zeth's alien gaze. "We're here to show you what you've lost." Dr. Okafor activated the device. Instead of broadcasting generalized emotional content, it channeled specific emotional memories. Dr. Chen's love for her family, Harrington's devotion to his homeland, Okafor's passion for discovery. Pure, unfiltered human emotional experiences flooded the command center's neural interface. Commander Zeth convulsed, his protective field collapsing. The gravitational weapon powered down automatically as the ship's systems responded to its commander's neural distress. More surprising was Zeth's reaction. Not just pain or confusion, but a complex cascade of responses as dormant neural pathways activated for the first time in generations. "What is this?" the commander gasped, experiencing emotion with the unfiltered intensity of a newborn. "This is what it means to be connected," Dr. Chen answered. "To feel, to belong somewhere, to have a home worth protecting." Something profound shifted in Commander Zeth's alien features. He reached out with trembling hands and accessed the ship's communication array, broadcasting a telepathic command that human instruments couldn't detect but whose effects were immediately visible. Throughout Earth's orbit, the remaining Vrax vessels powered down weapons systems and adjusted their positions into a non-threatening formation. "Enough," Zeth said simply. "There has been enough." 3 days later, as sunrise painted Mount Fuji in gold and crimson, Dr. Chen stood beside Commander Zeth on the observation platform of a Vrax cultural exchange vessel. The alien commander watched the play of light with an expression humans might interpret as wonder. Your species gave us back something we didn't know was missing, Zeth said. A piece of ourselves we discarded as inefficient. Nearby, a small Vrax child and a human child played together in the grass, communicating without words through gestures and expressions. Without the burden of prejudice or expectation, they found connection across the gulf of different worlds. Doctor, Chen smiled. Perhaps that's the greatest discovery in all this. That the power that saved humanity wasn't technology or weapons, but the emotional depth we sometimes take for granted. The very thing that makes us human.